Okay, members, here we go. It's time for us to update where we're at on the various trades. We're going to start with the Qs. The Qs, we actually took out the PSQ trade today, consistent with what we had talked about in our reasoning as to why we were going to do it. So let's review that. So if you remember from yesterday, I said that today would probably be the day where we would find out whether or not this trade's going to work. And what I was talking about was just what I talked about yesterday, and that is that this area down here, and you can see the support on the TA Today charts. That's where the buyers should show up on a short-term basis. And we were back into, if you remember, we're back into this big bar here, right? And we're also looking at this bar, which is how this chart draws that green area, right? It's connecting these points, this one, and then the one underneath it here, this one, right? It's using those 2 points to figure out that that's probably a zone, that's a significant area. And so what we wanted to see this morning is how did this trade as it came back? Now we don't have volume escalation or anything. It's not clear yet, right? We're making an educated guess on the day. It's not clear yet whether or not this is going to hold on the whole day, but it kind of looks like it probably is. And given that our entry wasn't great, right, when we entered this trade, so in other words, personally I entered here, I entered some more, I think it was there, and I entered some more up here. And so I got out of the trade this morning down at towards the lows just to book some profits and to get out of a trade where my entry wasn't great and where I thought that probably we're getting some sort of a pullback to try to do some sort of an ABCD structure up. So I don't want to stick around in this trade unless I think it's going to work. I got on the bad side of it, so I booked what I could and got out of it because it came back into an area, all these lows here, it came back into that area and looks like it's going to try to hold. In other words, the buyers were willing to buy at this price point, and if I'm short, that's not where I want to stay short, right? I want to probably pull out, put my money somewhere else. And so that's the ideal behind that trade. That's why I made the trades that I did and closed it out today. Let's go to Honeywell. Now to review Honeywell, the situation here was, if you remember, I got in up here somewhere. I was able to flip some of it for profits, and then I kind of got hung out to dry with the rest of it. Honeywell had a bullish retest regenerate right here. Got up underneath it yesterday, which was a bad sign. And then today, it escalates farther to the downside, and now you're getting some sort of a hammer reversal. Now, I don't want to kill this trade because this trade really depends, for me to get out of this trade depends on the market trying to turn, and that's what we just saw as I was reviewing the Qs, that this market may in fact be trying to turn and find support, find buyers. And if you've reviewed the other tapes already, you can see that, my ideal here is let's find a way out of this trade. And so when we start thinking about, a way out of this trade, probably the resistance is going to be up in that area on the way back. And why is it that area? Well, that's the retest regen zone that failed, and you have this overlap of these two kind of high volume bars now, and it just looks like that's probably the best I can expect. So if I look at that price point, the top's 105.80, the bottom of this is 104.65, so somewhere in that range is where I'm going to try to take this thing out. Now when I do that, I'll be taking a loss overall. I will not be, it will not be a win, but it will be a small loss. And it's a way to cut your losses, to something that's reasonable, and then move on to another trade. And then finally, if we go to the gold trade. Now, gold, we've already taken profits a couple times on the way up. We believe it's a big range trade, right? We've been waiting to see how it would trade that range. As I'm watching today, right, we've gotten up into this top bar, right, this big bar here. We've gotten up into it. We're kind of fading down. I don't want to see it get back into the lower range, because if it does, that means it's probably going to go back down here. So in other words, if it gets back into this range, it's probably going to try to seek this side of it. I wanted to try to sell towards the top. That was what I commented in the room this morning. I wanted to see if it would come up into here and let me sell it up there. Now, why would I sell it there if it's trying to break out? Well, because I think it's a range, right? We had a 45-degree angle that went parabolic, big volume spike, that usually divides a range. So in other words, if you get up to that area, more than likely you're going to fail to get back over it, and you're going to push back down. So that was the reason. If I sold it, now just think about the consequences, right? If I'm able to sell it, say at this price point, right up here at the highs or just under them, if I'm able to sell it there, even if it takes off, it's probably going to retrace and allow me back in at basically where I sold it. So there's no reason to hold it. I mean, I've got a win-win situation, right? I can get top dollar, maybe the exact top or right at it, and then buy it back lower again. But if I hold it, what happens if it comes back down? Well, I never get the profits, which is kind of what's happening to me right now, right? It's trying to come back down. So the best case is if it comes right up here to test this guy, that's where you sell it. And if it does take off, you just wait for the retrace and you buy it again. And you know it's probably going to retrace because it can't go parabolic and stay parabolic. I mean, even if we draw the angle now, look at your angle. It's still too steep. And so you know you're probably going to get a retrace off of that. That's the idea behind it. Gold, I'm not sure if I'm going to sell it today. I'll just have to watch it the rest of the day and decide what to do. I do want to sell at some point, and I want to try to buy back lower, because my thought is that this range is going to expand, this big bar, the range is going to expand at least to this area and potentially a little bit lower. So that's the gold trade. So Qs are off the table. We got Honeywell left. We're going to try to cut losses there at some point. Gold, we're still trying to figure out where to take the rest of our profits so we can buy back in cheaper again. That's it for today. Thanks. I'll see you next time.